What's up, everybody, and welcome to Assemble XP. One of your hosts, Matt. Joining me, as always, Captain Canuck himself, Court. Howdy ho.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm great. Now, Court, we're going to have a little bit of fun today because we are going to review a small title that we both, I think, thoroughly enjoyed, and we'll get into our thoughts and impressions and everything. But Echo Generation from Cococucumber, we both had the opportunity. We played it on our Series X, and we did it through Game Pass. So today, we're going to give you our thoughts, impressions, and everything, the rundown of what we thought of Echo Generation. Court, you're up first. Overall, for impressions of the game.
So it's a Toronto studio that made it. So there are some little nods to Toronto in there.
Fellow Canuck.
Yeah, the one of my favorites is you collect comics throughout, and those comics give your characters abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And you, at some point, and spoilers, we're going to talk about everything here. At some point, you get a raccoon as your friend. And their abilities, their comic, is called Trash Panda. Now, as someone that lived in Toronto for many, many years, everybody in downtown Toronto calls raccoons Trash Pandas. So I thought that was, I know they do it everywhere else, but like the first time I ever heard it was in Toronto, and it was just a very nice nod. And then also at the very start of the game, you start in your bedroom, and there is a PS3 on the ground, but the controller is the NES controller, and then it has the PC on the desk, and it's set in the 80s, which is where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
So everything about it is very nostalgia. Even the hat the kid's wearing, it almost, without, if you put the antlers on it,
I know.
it's a Camp Caribou hat, and I swear that I really hope that's what they were going for, because that's what it felt like. Yeah, the house with the bookshelves and such. It's like everybody's friend's house, everybody's friend's kitchen. Like it felt.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah, it felt very nostalgia. Even the character in the garage, the scientist guy, and you get all the gadgets from him. Everything in there is very 80s, and the security guards with the sunglasses and everything throughout. I had my qualms about it because I felt the story was phenomenal. And even at the very beginning, when you walk up and you're like, "Oh, Dad used to sit here," and I'm like, "Ooh, are they going to go really dark here?" And they do.
Yeah,
like the principal. That storyline is very dark.
It's a little scary.
Yeah, but it's also a lot like when we think about it. You and I have talked about this before. Movies we grew up watching from the 80s, the stuff that we grew up watching.
Oh, you can't watch that today. They're dark, and they are not meant for like 8-10-year-olds at all.
No, Gremlins is the perfect example.
Yes.
I thought that was a kid's movie when I was a kid.
And so did your parents. It is not.
It is a horror movie. But you know, that's what we grew up with. I know, like Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, when they take the heart out, but I digress about the 80s. There is a lot of great 80s tropes in there, and there's a lot of great story beats in this, and the game reminded me of Police Quest and King Quest. And these are games that used to play on your Commodore or your PC back in the day, and it was choose your own adventure, but it was solving riddles and solving puzzles. And that was one of the great things I loved about this. The story first, it drew me in. As soon as the kid was like, "Oh, Dad used to sit here," and you don't know where your dad is, and then when you find him in the spaceship and he's dead, it like I was wowed.
I thought the same thing. I was immediately hooked by music, the aesthetics of the entire world environment. You nailed it. It was exactly what I was thinking with this going into like all of my buddies' houses. The house design, the layout, everything, like it just felt Canadian. It felt like, my buddy's place that you'd go to, the hockey nets outside. Like I just was gravitated also just by the art design. It engaged me. The one thing I wasn't keen on, we'll get to some of the stuff that we weren't crazy about. One for me was not having any navigation in the game. I know that's on purpose, but it doesn't direct you at all of where to go, what to do next. And that could be great, and that could also hurt it a little bit. I found that it hurt it a little bit for me, and that's because I have no brain cells. But I'm walking around the neighborhood, and you're just exploring, but I'm interacting with like literally everything, and then not getting it, and I'm figuring it out. And I know, again, that's part of it. I would have loved if they had some piece of navigation, some hints.
That's where I got my Police Quest and King's Quest thing going in my head. I'm like, okay, I need to figure out. I've talked to this character. This character is giving me my quest, because that's what you're getting. You're getting quest here, there, and you got to go do it. My biggest hang up of the game, because that part there, I was like, okay, I love solving puzzles. So I was like, I'm going to figure this out. There is a lot of backtracking in the game. As someone that got you get the 1,000 achievement points, there's a backtracking a ton. You've got to like not spend money here to do this and this and this.
And you're constantly going back to bed to...
Yes. Well, that's that. I'll tell anybody who plays this game, please go to bed as much as possible because they get your health back. And as soon as you get the cat as your friend, he is your best friend. He is the only sidekick you want to use unless you have to use the other ones because the cat can rejuvenate you while you're in a fight. Like cat's the best. My biggest hang up was the fighting. I enjoyed the story so much that I didn't think it even needed the turn-based fighting at all. I think they could have made that game without the fighting and still hit those story beats. And that was my only hang up because I enjoyed that story. The fact that the father, that's spoiler alert, you save your dad in the end and he doesn't end up dying and you save the day is the typical 80s movie. Let's be honest. It's the story of Back to the Future. Well, you're going back in time, right? Yep. Let's be honest here. But it's 80s. It's what you do.
And I didn't find that the turn-based didn't click for me either. I agree with you. I could have done just a choose your own adventure, click point adventure story and just did that and use those resources for not the combat. I know they wanted it in there. There's some fun elements to the turn-based when he's using the hockey stick and stuff.
100%.
Taking out raccoons. As soon as you engage in the fight with trash pandas, you understand like what the tone of the game is and you're like, oh, okay, this is going to be a little silly. This is fun. I just didn't like, okay, how much I died and then reset and having to go back to bed to rejuvenate my health to figure that piece out too. So there was some grinding. Of that. Yeah. And you're like, okay, I'm kind of unnecessarily grinding through this. And that aspect I didn't really love. But I mean, the turn-based mechanics of it are good. They're solid. Yep. I like that you get multiple characters to actually go through it with. So it's not just your one character, you're recruiting everybody. All of that did work for me, but I agree. The story was so interesting, intriguing, and it had my attention and had me built into it that I could have just had the story of this.
I wouldn't not recommend it. For all Xbox listeners out there, this game's on Game Pass. I almost would say it's a must play. It's right up there with Artful Escape with me this year of indie titles that I've thoroughly enjoyed. The fact that I played through and didn't like the combat because I wanted to hit those story beats. Yeah. Like even when you go to the small town and you go to the coffee shops and you go to the library and you do all these things, there's so many little nods to the 80s in there, and it's that the warm feeling, and it speaks to our age group right now, and that's the one you're trying to hit, right?
100%. For me, to wrap things up on my side, definitely worth playing. It's on Game Pass where we played it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I highly recommend it to anybody that is looking for something that's got a little bit of nostalgia, great art design. It's fun to play, good story, and the turn-based combat is not breakable. There's no real glitches, Cord, at least for me in my experience. I had nothing in there. So I think that they did a phenomenal job. Cococucumber deserves a lot of praise for this game, for putting this together. Again, and Toronto-based studio, they're local for us. So hats off to them. This is great. I'd love to see what they will do for their next project because they have my attention.
I think you should have said Tukes off for them.
Tukes
off for them.
Tukes off,
and then let's all get him a Timmy's next time you see them.
Get a little double.
Actually, I'm probably gonna go get a Timmy's right after this show. I'm not even gonna.
I think we'll too. Court, wrap things up. Echo Generation thoughts.
100% enjoyed my time with it. It's gonna take you away from all the games we're playing. Like right now, we're playing Halo, we're playing Forza. It was a nice break for me because I was talking to you. I'm like, I feel like I have to play all these games, and this game I was like, yeah. Like I'm enjoying my time. My daughter could sit there and watch me play it, even though I'm fighting it. She's not seeing much. The combat took some getting used to, but it made me want to get to the story beats. So I was like, no, I'm going to do this, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself with this game.
Echo Generation, Cococucumber, Tukes off to you.